Greetings to everybody. First of all, I must thank Ashwasan and Mrs. Lalita Ovekar for inviting me to come here and talk. You must have, the last two talks were on very scientific subjects and financial things. So my talk don't want to call it a talk actually. We are going to discuss something which is very, very important for all of us. I am saying all of us because over the years as I have been coming, I am also getting older, you see. So now I am nearing the senior citizen limit. I am already 58 in November, so 59, 60. So we are almost in the same boat. Maybe some of you older than me, but so what I'm going to talk is not only about you, it's also about me. Till a few years ago, I would talk extempore. Now I have got a list here to check up if I'm okay. This is normal. You may be a yogi, you may be anything, but you see what happens is, just a minute, I forgot. First, let me invoke the blessings of the Divine Being who dwells in all hearts, who is all pervading, so much so that whichever direction you turn, there He is. You can also say she is, doesn't matter. So now we'll start, I'm sorry. Now, so we are going to discuss this matter of well-being. I think well-being basically has to start with the mind. Physically, you may be, I know I meet hundreds of people. Some of them are very good physically, some of them are not. But then I find that some who are physically looking very well are not mentally okay. I'm not saying they're insane, I'm saying that there is no peace of mind, there is no comfort, there is no tranquility, there is no balanced way of looking at life. And then I see some people who are really very, very sick physically. I'm not saying we shouldn't look after sick people, you should look after sick people. All medical facilities required should be provided to them. Today, medical science has improved in leaps and bounds. What you couldn't treat a few years ago, you can treat today. All that is fine. But I find that some people who really are into a serious problem physically, when you talk to them, you find that their minds are at peace. And if their minds are at peace, without doubt at some point they are physically at peace. Things happen somehow and they become better. Even if they don't get better, suppose, physically. Which is looking at the very extreme cases. They go with a song on their lips. This is very important. We all go. We come, we work, we travel, we have our adventures. We see the entire circus and then the circus is wound up and we say bye-bye. I'm reminded of J. Krishnamurti after talking. That was the last talk when he was very ill. He was running a temperature of 103 degrees, 104. But he insisted because a promise had to be kept, so he talked. So at the end of the talk, when the talk was over, nobody was getting up. So he said, "Sir, the talk is over first." Still nobody was getting up. And finally he said, "Sir, the circus is over, the joker is not going to speak anymore." And got up and quietly went off the place. So this happens, but then it depends on how you look at it and how wonderfully one can come and one can also exit. These are very important factors in life, and it all begins with the mind. So that's why I wanted to talk today about well-being begins with the mind. This is the subject. I deliberately use begin instead of start, because start, first of all, the sound doesn't match. Begin, being and begin. And the other is start sounds like a motor, some kind of a mechanical device. Begins has a kind of organic, evolutionary appeal to it. The sound. Sounds are very important. I don't want to talk about sound right now. The sound of Om, for instance. The various sounds are very important. But today our subject is different. Now, You'll ask me that you said you're nearing 60 now, so how is your mind? I would say that my mind is still very young. Sometimes to very embarrassing levels. In the sense that very often I feel like pulling a practical joke on somebody, which I'm not saying you should do that. It just shows that your mind is sound and kicking. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the mind. You can pull somebody's leg, but don't go to extreme limits to cause discomfort to people. Today, I must tell you, today I was coming down the lift in my apartment and I saw a pair of chappals lying in front of one door and a milk packet hanging in there. And they have already pasted a thing, notice saying, don't give the milk today. We don't require the milk today. I had half a mind to pick up the chappals and put it in front of some other door. Take the milk and hang it somewhere. I didn't do it, of course. 10 years back I might have. That's no crime, it's just fun. So what I'm trying to say is my mind, for some reason, perhaps because of my understanding of the fact, even if it is a little bit of understanding, that there is a divinity in every heart. Not only human beings, also in animals. There is a divinity which is in every heart, and that divinity by its very essence is peace, tranquility and happiness. And the more you tune into it, the more happy you are, the better your mind is, the better you function in your relationship with others. It is very important to note. Otherwise, whatever you have, whatever you possess, one cannot really be, cannot say well-being cannot be used, the word. Well-being means to be well under all circumstances, not under just a separate set of circumstances we have been trained to get out of this, the framework in which we kind of get set and the track becomes weather beaten. We don't want to move out of it. And I think any age is a good age to move out of the weather beaten track. There is no age for it. You look at the pictures, for instance, of all the great scientists and religious people who have come down to us. Look at any of the pictures. You see most of them are old, grey hair. I mean, there are young. Mozart became a genius at a very young. But see, because as you grow older, even though the physical body gets into some disease, mainly because the resistance is lowered. Our resistance to disease gets lowered as you grow older. This is a normal phenomenon. Medically, you can to some extent cut it down, but it's a fact that it does become low. Now, the only way to counter it is through making the mind strong. The mind, even if the physical body breaks down, it is not necessary that the mind should break down. As long as you get a sufficient amount of food that is required. Not to overeat and become obese, but sufficient amount of nutrition that is required, the mind can stay young. Now, therefore, what I am suggesting is that one should break out of the feeling that since my body has become old, life has come to an end, I cannot do anything now I have to just retire and sit quiet and do nothing. These are all very old-fangled thoughts. I'm not saying ancient thoughts, because you will see many ancient rishis were many 100 years old, they say. In fact, in the Bhagavad, the Kali Yuga is described as this unfortunate age when people die young and are dull in their intellect. Although we think that we are the most intelligent. So, as you begin to understand that the mind does not age with the body, although in its practical potentiality like memory and so on, there may be some problems. But deep down in its true essence, the mind actually becomes more mature. It is not so emotional as it was. Therefore, there is a chance to let your mind think seriously and come to the right conclusion. If you go to a Sufi teacher and tell him, look, I want to be initiated, I want to practice. There may be exceptions, but you ask you, how old are you? Will you say, I'm 30, 35? Say, okay, we'll keep in touch, you continue this, do this, do this. But when you are 40, we'll discuss serious things. Because 40, in the US they say, your life begins at 40, but that is not from the United States originally. We like to think that many wise sayings might have come from the West. For instance, the blind leading the blind. We say, oh, this is a wonderful statement. It must have come from some Western philosopher. Actually, it may be at a conventional and conservative estimate 2000 years old. Because it occurs in the Mundaka Upanishad. Andheneva niyamana yatandaha. The blind leading the blind. Talking about people who have collected so much information that they think they are wise. Which means you can collect as much information as you can, but you are not intelligent. These are two things. And I am saying that after the age of 40, the mind begins to mature. The pathways that bring about maturity of thinking and intelligence begin to become well defined, even though some other parts may become weaker. I know this is for doctors to say, I can't say much on this matter. I'm talking from my point of view. So, therefore, if life begins at 40, let us speculate, let it be a hypothesis with us. Then, how old are we? I'm going to be 20 years old. Some of you may be 30 years old. So we are still in the prime of life as far as the mind goes. So let's stay with that. And believe me, if you believe this with an honest mind, with a sincere mind, it will begin to act the very next day. And you will begin to see the changes. You don't give up after that. You don't have to give up. Give up everybody has to finally, but that can happen anytime. So we don't have to worry about that. Regarding great saints or the great yogis who have been young at heart, I must tell you a small story about a great man whom you probably might have heard of. There used to live a great saint called Neem Karoli Baba in Kainchi in Almora. He was from Almora. Old man, when he passed away, he was very old, but nobody knows how old he was, because people in Kainchi village thought that they knew him from childhood, their grandmother knew him from childhood and so on. So he must have been quite old. We don't know. We won't speculate on that. So even today there is somebody alive who used to live with this Neem Karoli Baba. So and I have a friend who is very close to this gentleman. And I believe he was telling him one day that this Baba was so playful. We used to wonder whether he's a child or a grown-up. And he said in the early days, somewhere in Almora district, they were sitting in the fields, in the wheat fields. And Neem Karoli Baba was sitting with one or two other people. And suddenly a big busload of people came from Delhi looking for Neem Karoli Baba. Now, you can't make out this Baba from anybody else because he didn't look any different. In fact, he had a big moustache and short haircut, and he used to wrap himself in a blanket and sit in this cold, and he was quite well built. In fact, a dacoit alone would fear to go and attack him at night. And big moustache. So the whole busload of people were down, and they started asking, where is Neem Karoli Baba? We have come to see Neem Karoli Baba. So this man says, this Baba looked up and said, what Neem Karoli? Who is this Neem Karoli Baba? There is no such Baba. You are wasting your time. You have come all the way from Delhi. They said, no, we are told there is a great. He said, there is no Neem Karoli Baba. You go and look, you search, you get out. Don't stand here. We are just enjoying our scenery. Get out. So these people went off. After searching the whole evening, they came back. And they said, no, we heard that Neem Karoli Baba is here. You must be Neem Karoli Baba. He said, oh, you think I am Neem Karoli? Okay, here are some laddus. Laddu khao, wapas Delhi jao. Now, what I am trying to say is an ancient man, old man, whose mind is so fresh. I am not saying we should imitate him and send people away or give them laddus. one has to be very careful because imitation is a thing that catches on very easily. One of the reasons why, last time I came here, you must have noticed that I had long hair and I tied it up with a rubber band. You don't see it now because I found many people imitating. Some of our close friends started growing long hair and tying it up. I said this is not going to work. That was one. And the second was that it's so difficult to maintain long hair. You have to shampoo it, you have to clean. I don't know how ladies do that. It's very difficult. And then my son started growing long hair and he was embarrassed that both of us have the same. So I cut mine. Some sacrifice for the son. So all I'm trying to say is that the mind has to be kept lively, no matter what one's physical age is, and there are ways and means of doing that. One is, as I said, to decide that I'm not going to let myself be old internally. That is the first step. Then you have to start working point by point on how to do it. First, look at life with an open mind. Vigilant, be agile. Don't let other people convince you of things which you really don't want to be convinced about. There's nothing wrong in sticking to your own opinion. If somebody says, you can say, okay, you may be right, but I think I'm right this way. So that. Second, do something that you love. If you ask me what do I love to meditate, or I love to read the Gita. It may be different for you. You might love to read Das Kapital or Mein Kampf, it doesn't matter. But do what you really love to do and don't let anybody change your mind on that, because that's what you love to do. If you love poetry, somebody cannot say poetry is useless, you should read prose. Stick to this. And if you love painting, I'm saying this because I love painting. When I want to relax, I paint, which I haven't got 5 years now, I haven't painted. So I'm not relaxed. I'm not relaxed, but I'm too busy. So paint, sing, listen to music. These are all wonderful things that one can do. And if you are religiously inclined, get a complete set of those beautiful CDs, music CDs available today so freely on devotional music. Any good musical CD, especially the chanting of Om, or if you belong to other religions. The other day, I heard a beautiful Christian chanting. It's called the, what is that? Georgian chants. Gregorian chants, right? Gregorian chants. It comes from the Russian Orthodox Church. And I think it is sung in Syriac language, in the Syrian language. But it's so beautiful. It's like, it's very close to listening to Beethoven, but here there are some words, there are no words. So, whatever be the kind of music you're interested in, listen to it. And very important, don't tell your grandchild all this pop music, shut it up, it is horrible. That is their interest. Let them listen to it. You can explain to them if it's good or bad for them, but don't say that, shut it off, because they're enjoying it as much as you enjoy your Beethoven. So, be tolerant. That is one of the ways of opening the mind. See, what happens is as we grow older, we forget that we were also young at one time and rebellious. And we want everything to fall into place as per our design, which usually doesn't work. If you do that, you will actually fail to impress the youngsters, because they will rebel and they will react. And before you know, they may go all out and do what they were always doing. So, the third point is, do what you really love to do. And then, enjoy healthy jokes always. But be careful, because there are some people whose hobby in life seems to be to SMS jokes to you. That can get pretty boring. But what I'm trying to say is, when you have something really that you can enjoy, do point it out and enjoy. Don't sit down with a morose facial expression, because If your mind is happy and peaceful, your body, your face reflects it. So break that mold, come out of it. And fourth, and this is my specific subject, meditate, visualize, and try to, in your meditation, be free of all the unpleasant memories that you had in the past. But if you had some beautiful, pleasant memories, recall them as much as you can. I don't subscribe to this theory that all memories must be thrown away, no. Memories which are unpleasant should be discarded. Memories which are pleasant should be encouraged to come into the mind, because even now you are not existing in that situation. You can live in your mind in that situation. It's like a virtual reality, what you see in the computer. So, learn to do that, and you can learn to do that in meditation. And I'm going to now give you a very simple technique of meditation, and trying to keep it out from all schools of thought and so on. It's anybody can do this. And this is merely, as soon as you get up in the morning, first make sure that you have a place where you can see the wide expanses, where you can open the window at least and look at the garden, or look at the other person's garden. It doesn't matter. It could be, garden is a garden, it's yours or his or the other person. And then wear loose clothes. I always tell people, when you meditate, have a separate set of clothes for meditation. Especially as one grows older, there is a likelihood that one might feel tired in the mornings. Now, if you sit down wearing the clothes you are sleeping in, invariably when the mind calms down, you might fall asleep. See, when the mind calms down, two things are possible. Either it may go into a higher altered state of consciousness, or it may go to sleep. This is a sign that the mind is relaxed, but we are not trying to sleep. So, that is because the clothes in which you sleep are associated with sleep. So, wear a fresh set of clothes, loose, so that they're not tight and they don't constrict you in any way. And sit on a comfortable mat. We are not trying to meditate on a bed of nails. Have a comfortable mat. Sit down. Look in the direction of where the light comes from. If the sun is rising, fine. Look at the sun. Don't stare at the sun. It's bad for the eyes. I'm talking about dawn, when the sun is just coming up, when there is a beautiful color, crimson color in the skies. So learn to see the sunrise. Get up in the morning. That's why Sandhya Vandana is done early in the morning. It's a wonderful time, the Sandhya, when the atmosphere is full of energy. So the birds chirp. We think they are making meaningless noises. I like to imagine that they are praising God. Maybe. You don't know their language. So, sit in those wonderful clean clothes, like the clothes you wear for karate minus the band. And then sit in a comfortable posture. Don't think that you can meditate only if you sit in Padmasana or something else. Of course, if you can sit, that's nice, wonderful. It's too late to get trained immediately. So sit in a chair, it doesn't matter. Then close your eyes first, before you do that. If possible, if you can do it, bend down and touch your forehead to the ground. It does many things. First, it gives us some kind of humility, that we are going down to this vast universe and thanking whatever is there for keeping us at least in this position. And it increases and improves the circulation of your head. So do that. There's nothing wrong in going down. And don't worry what others will say. Now this is another disease that we have. If I do this, what will somebody else say? So forget about what others think. Bend down, touch your forehead to the ground for half a minute. Then straighten up. Sit in your comfortable posture. Put your fingers together like this. Then Take a deep breath. Inhale. As you inhale, let your mind travel with the inhalation. Go with it. It means follow it, which means listen, watch the mind as it breathes. So as you inhale, and then hold for just half a minute, not more. Don't strain your lungs, and then begin to exhale. As you exhale, again let your mind go, travel along with the exhalation. You can do it easily if you listen to the sound, because when you inhale there is an internal sound, and when you exhale there is an internal sound. So listen to both these sounds with as much attention as possible, quietly. Don't count, but do it at least for about 5 minutes, let's say. 25-30 rounds, but 10 minutes is fine, 10 to 15 minutes. Doing nothing, you're not expecting anything, you're not expecting to attain moksha immediately, you're not expecting to levitate, you're just listening to the sound of your breath and giving complete attention to it. If you do this, if you practice it, I bet that if you do it regularly, you will find that there is a wonderful peace coming into you. It is not coming into you, it is coming out of you. It is deep down in your own self, it's slowly moving because the mind is becoming calm. It's a well-known fact that when the breath becomes calm, the mind becomes calm. And the best way to calm the breath is to breathe softly and deeply and let your mind travel with it. Give complete attention. Now, after 5 minutes of breathing, put your right hand in your heart. Heart meaning, I'm not talking about the physical heart, but in the center. In your mind, visualize that there is a beautiful light there, like the moon, cool light, or you can say light lamp. And then visualize that the light is spreading to your whole system and you're being bathed in the light of the divine. That's all, don't overdo it. The main thing is to do it every day. Then again bend down, touch your forehead to the ground, say thank you. Thank you can be said in any language. God is a linguist. So, this is one very simple technique that you can practice. Now, among us, if there are people who believe in prayer, because I know some people don't, that's okay. If you believe in prayer, at this point, put your hands up and pray to the Supreme Being to shower us with goodness, peace and well-being. That's enough. Otherwise, if there is a God, He knows what we want. So don't put in your points. Ask for well-being and goodness. That's more than enough. Now, since you are doing all this, don't think that you can neglect your medicines and that you should not go to a doctor. All these are very extreme views which we cannot afford to have. I know that even the most spiritual people sometimes have to go to a doctor, sometimes will have to take their medicines. So don't neglect your medical side, and you're lucky if you find a good doctor who is concerned about your well-being than anything else. So I'm only saying that that is also one side, because the body also has to be looked after. Now, to see again that I'm nearing 60, so I've been meditating for years, but now I have to use for reading. The other thing is, being young does not mean that one should have dark hair. Sometimes I feel that grey hair looks very dignified. So if it's grey, let it stay, there is no harm. You don't have to make it look black. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. If you really feel a little more pep, if you want to do that, that's fine. But I'm saying real silver grey hair looks quite vulnerable and very dignified. So don't worry about that. Then, and remember always that it is the mind that matters most. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that the mind can be your friend, but the same mind can also be your enemy. So cultivate the friendly side of your mind and don't give too much attention to the enemy. In the Quran, the troubling mind is called the whisperer, who whispers and slings away. So forget about the whisperer. Think of the other mind, which is your friend, and cultivate a good friendship with that mind, because it can work wonders. Now, if you have some time in your daily life, if you don't have, create some time and stay in a place at least once, if possible once in a month, if possible once in 2 months, if not once in a year. Go to a place where you are not associated with anybody, where you don't know anybody. You are Bob 1, Mr. Bob, nobody knows you. So go to such a place. It's nice if it's a beautiful place like a resort. Switch off your cell phone, even if it is for 4 hours or 5 hours. And then, if it is possible, meditate, as I said, or as you know how to meditate in different ways. The most important thing is to stay away from your day-to-day activities and the same faces that you meet every day. Give it a rest. And if you are not doing that, meditating, this is another kind of meditation. Sit and look at the trees. If it rains, listen to the rain. Don't immediately think it is raining, how should I prevent myself from getting wet? Watch the rain fall. Listen to the sound of the rain. Watch the clouds moving. If there are hills, look at the blue hills at a distance. Take a deep breath, relax, and just sit, glorifying all that you see and believing yourself to be part and parcel of this whole universe. Do that whenever possible. Even if it is for 2 days in a year, it works the whole year round. Do that. And finally, I want to say this. Many people are afraid of being alone. I can understand the physical security of being alone, the insecurity, that I can understand. You're insecure because you're physically not well, somebody has to look after you. That is a different matter. I'm talking about mentally being alone. So people, nobody listens to us anymore. I meet such people. Believe me, in the Vedas, the Varna, the ashrama division that has been made of brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyasa. Vanaprastha, that is the stage after the married life, is a deliberate attempt at remaining alone. Here we are afraid of loneliness as it comes by. So here there is a deliberate attempt at being alone. It's wonderful to be. I enjoy being alone. You are alone is the only time when you are really with yourself, and you see your mind and you see how you relate with other people. There are wonderful levels of consciousness that you can plumb when you are alone. And being alone actually means to experience the feeling of all being one. I like to split that word also, alone, all one. It's like the whole universe is part of you and you're alone. Actually, nobody is alone. There are the little creatures around you. Inside your body, there are so many living beings working. There are spiders crawling across the walls. There are flies, there are birds. When you say alone, normally what you mean is, I am in a place where I am not surrounded by what I normally think should be. That's all. So please understand that instead of being afraid of being alone, impose loneliness as a deliberate act so that you are free of the fear of loneliness. Keep a nurse at hand if you are very ill. That's a different matter. That is physical. I'm talking about the mind. In fact, to be alone mentally is a very wonderful experience. When you come out of that, you will realize also how you value the people who are not present at that time. That also increases and improves. Your relationships improve. So, I'm not advocating that you should go and live alone. I'm only saying that don't be afraid of being left alone, because it's wonderful. That's the time when you talk to yourself. That's the time when you talk to your God. That's the time when you are allowed time to look into yourself and find out where my problems are. So appreciate it when you're alone, and be thankful to those who have let you be alone, even if it is as an act of disdain. Say thank you very much. It's wonderful that you have done this. I have learned many lessons. So be free of that feeling of fear of loneliness. Now, this is about all that I have to say now, plus the last point, which is whenever you hear or feel or into something which you find good for yourself, share it with others. Sharing is a very important part of well-being. As you give, so you receive. So giving to share what you have with others, in extreme cases like great saints, even what you don't have with others. There is a beautiful, this is the last story, I won't keep you more. There's a great story about Guru Nanak, the founder of the Sikh religion. Before he founded the religion, before that, he was employed as a storekeeper by the local Nawab, because he was considered to be a very trustworthy man. So the Nawab said, if this man is the storekeeper, we have nothing to fear. So the first day he was employed, he was asked to measure the grain, the wheat, and give it to poor people as they come. Luckily those days, the rulers still were in the frame of mind to give to those who didn't have. So he was told to distribute. So he started off with a small container to measure the wheat and give it to the people, the poor. So he started with ek, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He was doing it okay. People went back and said he's doing fine, although he looks a little absent-minded kind of chap. His mind seems to be somewhere else, but this number is all right. He's doing it perfectly. Then he came to number 13. The 13th person came and he measured and he said Tera. He got stuck there. He couldn't stop measuring out the grains, because when he said Tera, he thought it is yours. Everything is yours, it's not mine. Mera nahi tera. It became, instead of number Tera. So he couldn't stop. He kept on giving, saying, it is yours. Tera, Tera, Tera. And somebody went and told the Nawab that this is what is happening. We were right, he's a mad guy. So the Nawab withdrew him from that service, thankfully, because otherwise he would have remained a storekeeper. And we wouldn't have had this wonderful philosophy called Sikh teachings. So, give whenever possible, whatever possible, in whatever way you can. So thank you very much for patiently sitting and listening to this talk. Are we having some questions? If you want to have some questions on this topic, we can. If you don't have any questions, you don't have to ask, because you have to ask me.
I have a question about your dictum on change.
Say, yes sir.
Now, I think change is right.
Right.
So how do you say you should not change?
I didn't say you should not change. It was the opposite. I think you got it wrong. There were two things discussed here. It's okay, sir, I'll discuss. One is, I said that we should be open to change. We should always be ready to break our mouths and move forward and not stick to the weather-beaten track. This I said once. The other I said was that suppose I genuinely feel that I am doing something good, and somebody comes and says, no, you're not doing good. I'm saying you don't have to immediately change your opinion because somebody is saying it. Give it thought. Think about it and then change only if you want to change. What I said was, don't let anybody persuade you. That is one side, that is the psychological part. The other thing, change means everything is changing, so you should be ready to adapt and change. But that change should not depend on an individual or a solitary opinion. That's what I meant.
must compliment you at such a young age, you have got such a mature mind. Can I add one thing? That
What?
it is not possible to have a healthy body with an unhealthy mind.
That's right. That is right. I also believe this. I'm sure many of you would be also subscribing to this, that you cannot have a healthy body without a healthy mind. And one of the requisites of a healthy body is to eat less and do good exercise. In today's paper there was something about it in the magazine section. Of course, they said that mice who ate less and exercised more lived longer and were happy. We are not mice, but I think it applies to human beings also. In fact, normally, food for one can be eaten by two, generally, under present circumstances, because we get so much food. And some don't get and some get. So I'm saying cut it out. Also, it's good for your health. Eat less, don't eat too much. If you want to eat 2 eggs, eat 1. There's a controversy going on in our school whether there should be 2 eggs. Say children should have 2, but so thank you again. Thank you very much. Hope to see you again, healthy and in good shape.